a little bit of good editing right there. What was I going to say about the track? With the wide track compared to the Smart and the Fiat, it definitely helps at freeway speeds. It's a lot more stable, less susceptible to crosswinds. Driving down the 5 South, there's a lot of semis on the road. You're close to the ocean, so you get a lot of winds coming into the road, and if you don't have a heavy car, it is susceptible to crosswinds, so you're constantly keeping your hands at the wheel, trying to keep it straight. And I'm not saying this is like a 4,000-pound Cadillac sedan, because it's not. It's about, I mean, it's about half the weight of that. But compared to the Smart, and compared to the Fiat, definitely a lot more stable because of the wider track. And that wider track also helps with the interior room of the car. When you have another passenger right next to you, it doesn't feel like you're sitting. You don't feel like you're sitting in a love seat. Basically, there's actually some hip room. There's elbow room. So when you sit in it, it feels like a normal car. There's plenty of knee room, plenty of head room. We had some guys at work that were 6'5", 6'4", and sat inside the car. One of the guys who's 6'5", he has a Mini Cooper, and he's like, wow, this actually has a lot more headroom and leg room than my Mini. So again, very deceiving. Small on the outside, but very big on the inside. Another thing that was a surprise was the power. I mean, I can't remember a time where I've driven anything less than 1.5 liters. I remember the Echoes back in 2000. I remember the XBs and XAs back in 03 with a 1.5. But a 1.3, you're like, God, that's really small. But again, you know, 60 to 80, no issues as far as accelerating. Right now I'm doing 70 at about 2100 RPMs. I'm going to accelerate. I'm at 75. I'm at 80. So again, no issue. I mean, it takes a little bit longer to get to 80 than say a V6 or a V8, but again, it's not slow by any means. The CVT transmission, which I'm not a fan of, is actually pretty good in this car. The first CVT in the Toyotas was, of course, the first-gen Prius, and they've certainly come a long way. It's not as loud as your typical CVT, but it still feels like it wants to shift to another gear when you do get on the gas. But once you start cruising, like right now I'm cruising at 70 miles an hour, it's revving at 2100 RPMs, it just feels like a normal car. It doesn't feel any different. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's actually a windy day here in San Diego. It's muggy, it's cloudy. If you look at the trees, they're moving a little bit, so it's not exactly the driest day. But if you look at the steering input, I'm not holding the steering wheel, and it's still tracking straight. So again, the road is turning, but when it straightens out again, I'll show you what I mean with that wider track. Again, it is surprising how this type of car doesn't drive like your typical micro subcompact. Because again, people are going to compare it to the Smart, to the Fiat, but driving the Fiat and the Smart, doing this in the Fiat, you could not do this. You could not do this with the Smart. You literally had to constantly keep your hands on the wheel, especially if there was a car next to you or if it was a windy day. And all that is, of course, the wide track of the car, but I'm also pretty sure it's a chassis of the vehicle as well.